Good evening and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. My name is Donna Greatbanks. I am your host, and this evening I have the honor to interview Regina Nunnally. How are you? How are you, Regina? You good?
I'm good. Good. Great evening, everybody. How are your faithful viewers?
Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Islands Diamonds LLC, Gary Johnson Media, Bethune Publishing House, author Angie Ransom Jones. She's a ghostwriter, and a Dante production, and of course, Fresh Book Festival, which will be held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach. February 25, 26, 27 in the year 2027. And we are looking forward to our 16th year of bringing literacy to Midtown Daytona. So, Regina, you
Yes.
are an international author of Boundless Success with Regina Nunnally, and now you have a new novel entitled The Heartbreak Diet. She is an entrepreneur and inspirational speaker who loves to travel, volunteer, and create inspirational videos on social media. You are the PK sensation and the mental wealth builder. That's Miss Regina Nunnally. Could you take a minute and tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you. So I'm a Florida native, born and raised in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Really? I
Uh,
didn't know that.
oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we out here though. Um, and I'm the youngest of my in my family, as far as I know. Don't ask me. I don't know. As far as I know. And my father was a pastor, so hence the pastor kid, PK.
Hmm.
Noted on the PK Sensation handle. And I went to school here, went to college at the University of Florida, graduated from there, and then came out a couple of years later and went to law school at it was University of Orlando School of Law, and then Barry from Miami Shores came and acquired us, and I've been practicing law for 23 years. And I love, like I said, I love to travel. I love to eat. I love to have fun, have a good time. I do line dancing, and I'm part of a group called Sexy and Smooth Gliders. And so I get out there and I clap my fan. I have no problem with that. I realize that I'm the type of person, I don't take myself so seriously because I used to, but we'll go into that later on.
Right.
I'm engaged, newly engaged, and I don't have children as far as I know. And I just like to see people win. So
You still have a puppy?
a puppy.
Didn't you have a puppy?
Oh, that was my furry nephew, BJ.
Okay.
Yeah, my furry, yeah, that a puppy. What? No, that was my furry nephew, BJ. He was with us for a while. Seems like forever. He's now back with his family. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's
So that
BJ.
wasn't yours. I knew you
No.
were taking care of one.
Oh
I
yes.
want you to tell the audience really quickly about the time, uh, and you think this never happens to anybody that you know, but Regina woke up one morning and her car was gone out of the
Oh
driveway.
geez. Yeah.
Uh,
This was during the Kia Boys. If anybody remember that people this gentleman on social media talked about how it was so easy to break into Kias and
uh-huh,
Hyundais.
uh-huh.
And I had just received a notice from Kia saying, hey, bring your car in. We're going to update the system. And I'm like, okay. So I had made an appointment. I think the appointment was a week before. And one Saturday morning, I walked out, and my car is parked right in front of my window. And I don't know, and I had my shades open. I didn't look outside for some reason, but I was going to an event. My sororities have an event, and I walked out the door, and my car was gone. And I was like, "What?" And then I went to my house and said, "Mom, where's my car?" And my mom on the phone, and she told somebody don't stole Jeannie car. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And and I had another incident happen where, let's just say it's good to be broke because you can't put gas in your car. And I believe that's the only reason why they was able to get my car back, because the jitterbugs that stole my car took it on a joyride, but it ran out of gas. And so so when I called the police. And then about 3 hours later, they said, "Oh, we found her car, and it was in the hood." And they talked to people, and people said, "Yeah, we saw two skinny black dudes in black pushing this black car down the street. It was my car." So I got my car back, but it was like I started laughing. I was like, I already had stuff happening leading up to that, and all of a sudden now my car gone. But I got it back. So yeah, that was.
I mean, you hear those kind of stories, I went out and my car was gone, but never anybody I knew ever came out of their house and their car was gone. You are a first, Regina. You are a first to have that happen. That's too funny. So let's talk about you being an attorney and how that happened. Like,
How
did you
that
wake
happened.
up one morning and say, I really just want to be an attorney?
Nah, I woke up one morning saying, I don't want to go to school. Because I was like, growing up out in school for me was the devil. The idea of going to school wasn't my forte. And I say that because depending on who's watching this, it's important. And when you have dreams, there's certain things you just have to do to achieve them. Okay. So even though I hated school, didn't like school, I think I had I believe I had a learning disability, and it was mild, but it wasn't really, and that was one of the struggles. And then plus I would get in fights and, picked on, and so school wasn't my happy place. But in order for me to go where I need to go, I need to get through school. And so the idea of being a lawyer happened really when my father was building the Ocean Center, and he was helping build the Ocean Center, and he almost got killed on the job, and therefore they got a lawyer. And so I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna get paid. No, I'm a teenager. That's how I'm in junior high. And I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna get paid, because when my dad had stopped working, we went from a two income to a one income home. And so I started to see the stresses and the struggle that brought in the house. On top of all that, I'm thinking still I'm gonna get paid. And I didn't know anything about workers' comp. I didn't know anything about that. I just thought that my dad was minding his own business. He got hurt on the job. Why? How is that his fault? And so the outcome was a little different than I expected. And even when my dad got his settlement, received his settlement, it wasn't enough to cover the deficit that we were in. So that's when I
Mm.
sat back and thought, these people don't really. Now, this is me as a teenager thinking like this. I'm not saying I was deep, but I mean, I'm thinking on this wise, like, wow, we're struggling, and it's like, do they care? It's not about a windfall. This man could have died, and you took just on. So that's when the idea of an attorney dropped into my spirit. But it wasn't until I went to junior college and I was debating whether I was going to be a paralegal, I was going to go to UF. And some lady, I don't know who she was to this day, came up to me. I was in the bookstore looking at some information, and she was like, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm just figuring out where I want to do it, lawyer, paralegal." She just said, "Why don't you just go ahead and be a lawyer and be done with it?" And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. So that's when I was definitively um affirmed the mindset of I'm going to be an attorney. Now I have no lawyers in my family, nobody legal in my on that level. So I didn't know any attorneys, let alone black attorneys at all. I didn't know it was any in Daytona Beach. Really, I didn't. So I just know what I knew. You got to go to college, you got to go to law school, take the bar, and that's what I did. And so even when I came out, I didn't know what I want to do, but I know I did not want to do criminal. I wasn't I was like, I'm not gonna be representing them criminals. But
But you
I
were a
guess
public defender.
I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. I did not intend to do that when I came out of law school. I wanted to do public interest law because I realized that I'm more of the people type of lawyer. I don't do C-suite. I cannot do in-house. Boring. I want to deal with people. I want to help people. I want to be in the trenches with them because I'm all about the underdog, because I always felt like the underdog behind the eight ball kind of thing. And so public interest law is that area of law that's more geared to community, dealing with the marginalized, the people that can't really pay you. It's not high paying at all. But to
No
me, that didn't mean anything to me because they need help too. Because that's where we were when I was a kid. We were in that situation.
position.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that position. I mean, life happens. Life can change everything up for you, whether you want it to or not. And so I had no plans on coming back to Daytona Beach. Because as far as I concerned, Daytona Beach had nothing for me, but a door opened at the public defender's office. So at that point, I passed the bar. I was just looking for a job. I didn't really care where at that time. And the PD's office was open. I applied. I got the job. And I thought, well, I don't know if I could do this job because I've heard so many bad stories about being a PD, overwork, underpaid.
Right,
And
right.
I was like, my God, I didn't last 6 weeks at Burger King. I don't know if I can last at the public defender's office. Everything's so quick and fast. But God gave me grace. And I realized what it wasn't. And what it wasn't an issue of keeping up. It was about managing, learning how to manage a caseload. And it wasn't about criminals. It was about protecting people's rights.
And you were there
And
30 years?
20 years,
20,
six months.
6 months.
20 years, 2 decades, and 6 months.
Mm.
Yeah.
What did that feel like when you went to go take your name off of your office?
Oh, Lord.
Was it tough?
It was because there's one thing I learned in life. Apparently, I do get comfortable, but I get attached. And I don't really like the finality of certain things. Um, so yeah, because I posted on my Facebook of them taking my name out, and it felt like, oh wow, that felt like this is real. This is real. Yeah, I'm actually leaving. I'm walking out of here, and so it did feel a finality. And when I pulled off, I was crying. I was like,
Oh,
just it was an end. It was an end of
an
a era.
error. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for me.
And so then
And
you decided to go from helping people to not go to jail to helping people stay in housing.
right. So legal aid, which I originally wanted to work for because when I was in law school, I clerked with legal aid in Seminole County. So that's why I realized that the public interest sector is where I wanted to be because you're dealing with the everyday person, we're dealing with everyday issues. And so I said, I'm fitted for that. And so when I saw that legal aid had something open, yeah, this is me 20 years later, I said,
Right,
resume,
right.
a cover letter. I'm like, huh? And I'm like, and then I
Don't
was like,
you
I know
know who
my,
I am?
I, not even that. Do I know who I am? It's like, because I've been in one place so long, you,
No,
you
yeah,
know that you
yeah,
know if people,
yeah.
I don't say know you, but here I am. I have to start over again. And but I was suited because what I was going into basically was dealing with the same group of people, but only
Element.
from a civil perspective.
Right.
And so that's what made me marketable because I'm dealing with the same population, only on a different in a different area
Mm-hmm.
of law and setting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it was like I just walked in and just picked up and then kept it moving. So all I had to do was learn the civil side of things, civil procedure, civil contracts, lease agreements, property law, even federal regulations. So we do housing, we deal with federal
Right.
housings as well
Right.
and stuff. So there was a learning curve there, but it was great because now I'm closer to home instead of commuting 30 minutes one way and back and forth an hour. And round the corner, gas prices. Not I put gas in the car. I forget when the last time I put gas in this car.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah. It's really
Yes,
nice.
very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Mm,
you woke up and said, "Oh, I don't have anything better to do, so I'm just going to write my first book and be a part of an anthology instead of." And the question is, I know that now the anthology queen is Janice F. Kerner. So she does anthologies every year, every other year, Janice? Yeah. And so why did you decide to do that as opposed to coming out full force and doing your own thing the first time?
Well, I'll say this. I never had a desire to write a book, and it wasn't that seed was planted really by you.
Oh,
Okay. See there, see what you did, and I would say this. I had a writer's okay. Back when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in a very performative household. 'Cause my dad was a pastor. He also sung in quartets. My brother sung in quartet. So we all were performative in some kind of way. And so there was some creativity, creative uh, uh,
juices.
juices going. And so I had a very vivid imagination of the youngest, and my brother's like 8 years older than me. So there's this big old gap. So I had a very vivid imagination. So I started writing, little stories, and then in English, I would include my classmates in the stories, and then so it was like it popped up. The writer spirit just popped up once in a while, like a whack-a-mole. Just popped up
Right.
here, popped up there, and popped up. And then I wrote a story when I was in junior college at DBCC, Daytona Beach Community College, now Daytona State. And my teacher gave me 150 out of 100. And I'm like, is that a such thing?
Wow.
Um, and so that was my first story I wrote. It was called Unbelievable. And I'm a geek. I'm a geek, and I'm a science fiction geek. I'm a Godzilla lover. So I'm kind of science fiction-y and stuff. And so that was my first story I wrote. So like I said, it popped up here and then popped up. Because when you are a speaker, a public speaker, you're also a storyteller.
Right.
It comes with its
It
territory.
comes natural.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you're speaking, you're storytelling, so you have to write it out anyway. So that's pretty much where the skill set started to get honed in that area. And like I said, pop up here, pop up there. Then it went dormant, but then law school came around, and then I started writing during our fact patterns for my study group to so we can practice out, learn, and really understand the area that law that we were studying at that time, the materials. And so that's where I started writing again, making up stuff, coming to me, boom, boom, boom. Then it goes back down. And then it wasn't until after, well, I was writing plays, I was writing skits. I was, I started to embrace the like you say, the creative juices, and
Right.
then it'll go dormant. It's like whenever it was needed, that's when I did it.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. But the anthology was that was like my I was approached by Melanie Bonita. And that's when the idea of being in a book with a bunch of people, I'm thinking, okay,
Hmm.
that's fine.
Hmm.
All right, I'm
Hmm.
good with that. I mean, I didn't have no preference. It was like I was writing articles for magazines, and I had no preference. I said, sure. And so that's how the anthology began. But then after a period of time, I said, you know what? I was 2017 when I got the jazz to write a series of stories, and I was writing like 3 or 4 stories simultaneously. Like when I was
During the
done with
pandemic.
one. No, this was before the pandemic,
Okay.
2017.
Right.
And so I just started writing, and then so I have these stories in my laptop, and then I became a published author in books. And then after that, I said, you know what? Now it's time for me to pull the trigger.
So talk about the steps you took for the Heartbreak Diet to be published.
Well, the first and foremost, obviously, you have to write
Right.
the story. That's the first. And then you need to feel comfortable giving that story over to somebody, hoping that they will treat
Mm.
it right because it is your baby, you know. And actually, I wouldn't say, were we dating? What were we? I guess we were talking something. It was something. And well, he had already established his own publishing company, wanted to do that. And so I was praying. I said, who I want to give this story to? And I thought about him. I said, you know what? I'm gonna give him my business. And so I gave him the transcript. He reviewed it, and I had my nephew do the graphics. And
The nephew
then
did the cover. It's a nice cover.
yeah, he
Hmm.
did in Canva. I told him
Hmm.
what I wanted, and he did it. And so
You don't have a copy to show us, do you? Right, quick. No, yeah. There you go.
mm,
There you go.
this happened to
God,
it just
yeah.
happened to this happened to
Be right
be
there.
next just be right next to me, just like,
Very
oh
good.
wow,
Yeah.
how
Okay.
convenient. Um and then so that process was interesting because I've never dealt with that process because in anthologies you just submit it to whoever and they handle all that. You
Hmm.
know, I never. So when that process, I was like, okay. They called me and said, let's go over your manuscript. There's some things adjusting, and I didn't realize I was protective of my of
Oh
my
yeah.
they
Oh
they're
yeah.
looking at something, and I'm like, okay, because you don't understand it, don't mean it don't make sense.
Right. 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 Right.
But I had to humble
Relent.
myself,
Yeah. Humble yourself. Right. Right.
surrender,
Hmm.
yield. And then because they're the experts. I'm paying them
Yeah.
to to guide me through this process. And I said, okay, so I had to go back and flesh out some things and beef up some stuff. And I said, okay, that does make sense. Because in my mind, I know what I'm trying to say, but that doesn't mean that's going to communicate well to the reader that get the book.
Yeah, you have
And
to be explicit, pretty much. I mean,
mhm,
there's one thing to say, I walked into the room and he was sitting on the couch and we had a conversation. It's another thing to say, I walked into the room and there sat my mother's armoire, with the things that she cherished the most and the colors of you know what I mean? So when you're
right.
walking into a room, you can visualize it as opposed to I walked in the room and he was sitting on the couch. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to put a little
Yeah.
more in it.
Because you know what they did? They said, you write like a lawyer. And I'm like, huh? And he said,
Yeah,
because
to the
I'm just
facts.
straight
Just
to
the
the point.
facts. Just
Just
the
the facts.
facts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the facts, Jack. Just the facts and did this and that. And all I said, well, that's how my mind work. And sometimes details. And so yeah, so there's some areas where I do give a little bit more, and there's some
Mm-hmm.
areas I'm like that, and a little bit here. So it's a mixture of stuff. But that was the process I went through, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all, and and plus I knew the person, and I really believe that they'll do right by me, and so
And when
yeah.
were you published? When was The Heartbreak Diet published?
It actually was published March. Well, I was trying to get it out by February, and then we were having some issues with that, and then finally in March when it was published, there was an issue of how it was, I guess, the manuscript itself. I don't know what copy they did put on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it. When it printed off my books, it was all
All
off
messed up.
margin,
Yeah, yeah.
messed up. And so then we had to go back to drawing, and she had to change that up. So it finally I think was like it was like May, like April or May, when it was finally finished, and
2026?
of this year. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're early in the process.
Yeah.
Early in the process.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't even really had to do a whole lot of marketing yet because it's practically brand new, right?
Yeah, it is.
Do you have a marketing strategy at all?
Well, right now the strategy is what I've done with the other books. I word of mouth, letting people know, social media as well, and getting connected with people like you. They'll give me some airtime to talk about who I am and what I do as well, and then also doing book launches. So
Right.
I and going to events like my line dance group. We had a workshop, and so one of the ladies said, "Hey, Regina, you need to bring your books. Bring in," and I'm like, "All right." So I have my thing. I'd already made up my mind how I'm gonna do my launch at
Right.
some
Right.
point. So I
Right.
told my nephew, who then made me a bigger version of this,
Right.
and so I brought my books, And I gave like a quick 5-10 minute of what I do. And then I bought about 10, 12 books with me, sold them all out.
All right. That's the way you
So
start. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So word of mouth, social media, telling people,
I
and
never
and
hear you mention it during your mental wealth builder.
no,
Okay, because that's a whole another thing.
yeah, because to me, because right there, the mental wealth builder was a pandemic, was produced during the pandemic. That's
Hmm.
a pandemic. Uh, what my word? I can't find any words for the
Podcast,
word.
whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was well, during the pandemic when everything was shut down, I started to go into personal development mode,
Mm.
and I wanted to develop what I have, and I tried to, and so in listening to people on Clubhouse and listening to people on the internet, I was like, okay, how do I that unique value proposition? What do I bring to the society, to the community? What do I bring into the space? How do I describe who I am and what I do? And so one day I was listening to somebody on podcast or whatever, and I heard they said mental health, but for whatever reason I heard mental wealth, and then the word builder. That's how I work. I just have stuff drop in my spirit. God has given me these mental wealth builder. I said, okay, what do I do? I offer, how I offer value is by giving inspiration. Why? Because the word tells us that where our treasure is, that's where our heart is. And our treasure in our heart is here.
Mm.
And I said, and so that means mental wealth is built by what? Educating people. Hence why I say I'm allergic to ignorance. Want to educate, inspire, open their eyes so they can see the worth of my eyes. All those things kind of, like I said, they're intertwined, inextricably intertwined, as we would say in the legal world. And so when I heard mental wealth builder, I said, that's what I do. I said, I deposit value into the minds of others and build them up. Hence, mental wealth builder.
Well, did you know it? I mean, it's really popular, and I'm really proud of you because I think a lot of people follow you, and so it's not for the faint at heart because everybody got something to say, right? One way
Yeah,
or another, you know?
yeah. I'm not. I say I'm not a. I'm not saying I'm controversial because there's certain things you have to pick and choose your battles,
Right.
on things,
Hmm.
and I'm inspired by what I read and what I hear. And I hear two words, and all of a sudden, that's that preacher in me too. So I forgot to tell people I'm a pastor. I forgot to tell a lot of things. But
Okay, we'll get to
um,
that in a minute.
okay, okay. But it's that gifting
Yeah.
that you're working. And I
Yeah.
hear two words, and then I get a whole epiphany download from that, and then it's like fire in my bones. I got to get it out.
Mm.
So what we say, preachers say, it hit us first before it
Right.
hits you.
Right.
And so and so I said I want to share it with someone because somebody may need a word. They may need a word of
Hmm.
encouragement, inspiration. Because that was my first, because in the anthology, the Boundless Success was the first chapter was about my dad teaching me a valuable lesson about not quitting, and that's been my mantra: finish what you start.
Right.
So I tell people I inspire you to stay motivated because inspiration comes from outside. Motivation comes from inside. What motivates you? What moves you? That's why it's called locomotive. That's why it's
Hmm.
called a motor.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
inside and it's driving you. But
Driving you to do.
yeah, but the inspiration is the gas,
Right.
you
Right.
know. So I inspire you. I speak into you. When somebody prophesied to me and said, Regina, your voice is gonna open doors for people. And I said,
Right.
what you say now? And so I want people to be free. So I inspire you. I pour into you to keep you motivated to finish what you start.
Well, you're doing a really, really good job of it, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the ones that I remember, like the the dome that was being redone, and it had taken
Oh
so
yeah.
long, right? But people think
Mm-hmm.
things happen overnight when they really don't. When it's broken, it's broken. You have to rebuild it, right?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about being broken.
Oh yeah.
So the heartbreak diet is based on many circumstances that have occurred, including your death of your father, the
Yes.
illness of your mother, and finally the demise of your forever relationship. Expound on those things for us.
Well,
You don't have to go all the way home, but just give us a little bit of each and how it was expressed in the heartbreak diet.
heartbreak comes in many forms,
Right.
but pain is pain.
Mhm.
And whether it was pain from death of a family member, pain from hearing bad news, disappointment, or pain from, loving somebody who didn't love you the same way. You know, pain is pain. And life is full of it, that and we can there's no guarantees, and anybody told anybody otherwise, they lied to them, lied from all
Right.
over the place.
Right.
Um, and so this book channels, not so much, I didn't go into the actual stories, but it channels the emotionalism, the experience that pain brings.
Mm.
And I put it in a storyline to teach as well. It was cathartic for me, and it is, writing is cathartic. You're getting stuff out your system and putting it on paper, so you won't ponder on it so much, right? And so the whole goal is to show people that, life gonna hit you from all over the place, and it'll take one thing to take you out. One thing can take you out. So how do you navigate this? And as growing up, I really wasn't taught how to navigate
Pain.
disappointment,
Mm.
pain, and really in my family, the idea of showing anything that looked like weakness
Didn't do
was
it.
a no-go.
Hmm.
And so, yeah,
Did
so
it
the
hurt?
book.
Did it? Go ahead. Did it
No, go
hurt
ahead.
more? Did it hurt more because of the pain is the book is fiction and nonfiction.
Hmm.
And does it hurt more that some of the pain you received was where also you got your I don't want to call it pleasure, but your calling, which is the church? Did it hurt more because it happened in that setting?
No,
No, it
it
wouldn't have
didn't
mattered.
hurt. It didn't hurt more. I would say, um, that it didn't hurt more that it happened in a setting. It hurt more because it happened, period.
Period. It could have happened in New
Anywhere, in any
York in the
situation,
apartment,
it
right? It didn't
doesn't
matter.
matter. It hurt. I had my I when I am my heartstrings. When I'm loyal, I'm loyal.
Right,
And I got to be careful with that. Okay. And,
right,
everybody that you picking up what I'm putting down, you got to be careful where the Bible tells us, don't throw your pearls to swines. Everybody can't have what you got for them. They know how to
right,
handle it. They know how to manage it. So it was more how the pain was managed, how I was able to deal with it. It was like, I was like, this is new to me. This is like, how do I do this? What do you do with love you can't use anymore? What do I do with this? And then I'm I'm all about
it's
allegiance.
unrequited. It's
Oh
unrequited.
yeah.
It's yeah, and that's really really
Unrequ-
hard.
yeah, it's unrequited, and it was public.
Yeah,
It
that's
wasn't
worse.
private,
Right,
and that will amplify the pain. And there's one thing to deal with it privately, and
right,
nobody don't know anything about it.
right,
But when
right,
it's open and everybody see it and it's
right,
obvious, you can't hide from it. There's nothing you can do. So you got to maneuver through this. And I said, how do you do this? What do I do with this? I don't know. So it's like this on the job training.
right.
Yeah, my
Mm.
dad had passed away. I know friends that went through it. So I would say this. when you know somebody went through something that you went through and you see them making it, that can be an encouragement to you. All right. However, again, you still got to walk your walk. You got to walk this thing.
And it's one thing to go through it being just the normal person. It's a whole nother thing to go through it when you're a minister.
Oh yeah.
That make
Minister,
right,
professional,
right,
that you see yourself as this
right.
strong, and I'm gonna be
Strong,
real,
right,
this strong black woman. I'm educated. Why am I letting this get to me? Why am
right,
I letting
right,
this get to me? It's
right,
like I'm not supposed. And then you go through, so you have this mindset that because of you where you are, certain things shouldn't bother you. But here's
right.
the other side of that: the way people see you,
Mm-hmm.
they too don't know how to handle it when you act like them, human.
Oh, right, right, exactly.
They can't handle it. And I had to
Mama
deal with
Tony
that
can
too.
testify to that,
Yeah.
right?
They
Yeah,
want you to hurry up and get
yeah,
over it.
yeah.
Hurry up and get
Like,
over
what's
it,
wrong
whatever it
with you?
is.
Right.
It's not, it'll get, you'll find somebody one day, huh? It is what it is. And, I'm like, what? That's how you talk to somebody? And then I was like, wowzers. So yeah, it does amplify because you've been led to believe that because of the position that you're in, you always got to look like you have it on lock. You have to look like you have it together, that nothing gets to you. Because if you do, it's a sign, is a show of weakness. And
Right.
that was one of my battles. I
Yeah.
felt like I was weak because I let it get to me.
I want you to give me three things you saw, but were too blind to see.
The three things I saw, well, let's be specific. And the I say the straw that broke the camel's back was I was in love with this individual. We both was in the church. That's when we met. And he was not what I was expecting, but it was like I felt okay. I was say I prayed and asked God, "Is this my husband?" I thought I heard God say yes. I said, "Nah, he's too young. He's 10 years younger than me. I'm not a cougar." And then all this, but I embraced to think, okay. So that was the other side of that. That was the other side because I felt like this was my husband. And even when I told the guy that, he told me not to doubt what God said. And then he up and married somebody else. That was
Mm,
another thing that took me out. I'm like, you told me not to doubt what God told me about you being my husband, but you walking with another woman. That's the other side of the story. That took me slap out. So the three things that I did not see with him was number one, um, he was secretive. He was secretive. He it's like he would hide things, and I'd be like, "Why are you hiding stuff? Why are you not telling me that you was off all week? What's wrong with that? Why are you keeping that to yourself?" There was one time he called himself liking somebody, and he invited her to the church, and he didn't tell me about it. I know, and maybe we went together or anything of that nature, but he knew I liked him, but it didn't develop into anything serious down the line yet. And he just kept it to himself. And then when she came and then he told me she was there, and then he said something else. I said, "What? You mean, why y'all talking about me? Why did I come up with a conversation?" He's like, "Oh, it's not what you think." I said, "Well, what is it?" So it was like he wasn't, he was
mm,
secretive about what he was doing, how he was moving. And I blew it off as, okay, well, that's just him. But that's not, but then fast forward later on, this is what he did the same thing. When he started dating the woman he's married to now, he was inviting her to the church. I didn't know she was there. Everybody saw but me. But he was scared to tell me he was dating somebody. And so seeing someone, so he couldn't tell me, but he would invite her to the church. So she'd be sitting out in the pews and I wouldn't know she was there. And that was another thing I thought, you say you respected me. You said that you cared. You said that we were friends, but you treated me like I was an enemy. You kept me in the dark. You kept me ignorant. That's why I'm allergic to ignorance. You kept me in the dark and ignorant on purpose because you
yes,
wanted to manipulate the situation. And I guess
yes.
you didn't, and I said, but I didn't deserve that. So, but that was who he was. And I thought to myself, why did he do that? And that's when it came to me, Regina, that's who he's always been.
Yeah.
That's why it was so easy for him to do it because he's done it many times. And then I like, wow, really? So that's one. Second thing was me and him had a conversation one night. This is when we had a situation shift going on. And I asked him flat out, I said, am I your friend? Am I a freak? Or I'm a forever? And he said, you're my friend. I said, okay. He said, no, I don't see you as a freak. I'm like, mm-hmm. But when it came to forever, he didn't answer.
Mm.
He didn't say a word. Red flag, y'all. And I was like, I didn't, and I know I didn't question him. I didn't ask him because I was scared. At that point, I was scared to ask that question.
Yeah,
What?
you were scared of the answer.
Yeah, and he had an answer, but he never answered it. He just got quiet. He was like, mm. So I read it to mean he's not sure. So it could be a yes. He's afraid to say yes, or it could be a no. He's afraid to say no. So I just okay, all right, it'll get better. But that was him being, indecisive. And I learned now that when a person is not sure about what they want, the answer is no. Okay.
Silence is a answer.
Yeah.
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 We don't like to take that, but silence
Hmm.
is an answer. Okay.
Yeah. And that answer does not, and the answer to me should I saw it, but I ignored it. And then the other thing was the mixed signals. Um, it's like he liked me, he wanted to be around me, then he'd pull away. And then here I am thinking, okay, well, maybe, he's just, he's fighting his true feelings for me. He don't really want to give in. He's not sure
You
what he
just wrote the
wants,
script, right?
So, yeah, and I'm like just thinking, like, okay, well, he'll come around because I will say this in the middle of all this mixed signal thing, that's when I revealed to him what was revealed to me. Because I'm like, okay, you say you don't want nothing with me, but you're treating me a little different more than we're friends. So I was green. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that type of thinking at all. And I didn't expect that from him because I trusted him, I believed him, and we were close. And so when I asked him, I said, look, how do you I said, what happened? He said, oh, I was caught up in my flesh. I said, that's it. And I said, well, now I'm confused. I don't know. And that's when I told him about what was revealed to me. And that's when he said, oh, don't doubt what you heard. And I said, okay, so why are you doubting it? He goes, well, I don't like you in that way. Boom. You don't like me in that way. What you mean? So I'm like, one more. And then he said, but things could change. So that's what I'm saying. We went from I don't like you, but things could change. So I held on to hope.
Things could change.
Things can change. And I held on to that. And then it did change. He he a year later, he got married. And I was like,
How long were you in this situation?
well, we were friends for a long time. Friends, we worked
How
together,
long were you in the
church.
situationship?
Oh, the situationship, I would say that went on for about uh 6 or 7 months.
Okay. Not too long.
No, I remember
Long enough.
it was July 2022.
Right.
No, July 2012 and January 2013. I Yeah, I don't know what happened. He wanted me to come down and see him one night. I said, "No, I'm tired, man. I can't do it." And the next thing I know, he just withdrew. He pulled away, and I was like, "Well, what's he pulling away for?" I'm thinking, okay, maybe we need some space. And he pulled away from me, and I saw it because he wasn't hanging around, wasn't talking to me. I'm thinking, did I make him mad or what? And didn't know that there was somebody else in the mix,
Right.
but
In the picture.
right. And then next thing I knew, July of 2013, he sends me a text message saying he getting married. I'm like, to who? And how? And what? And when this happened? And I was, you know what? And I'm telling everybody, I was going to put my big girl panties on because I was looking at the fact, okay, he did ask me about my wedding ring size. He did do that. So he was doing little things that made me think I had a chance, or there was a chance for us. And so
Mm,
those little things was making me. That's what was like. Well, what was all that about? You playing games? I said, we in the church, really? And so it just blew my mind, just the way it went down. And I was like, I really felt, I guess I played myself. I got played by somebody I trusted who I thought respected me enough to, if we didn't have anything at all, okay, fine. But what about the friendship or whatever we had? You didn't even
right,
honor that.
right.
And so, yeah, I fell apart. I just fell apart. I fell
And the
apart.
good thing about falling apart is that you can build yourself back up. It takes time, it's like the blocks are slow sometimes, but where you are now is amazing
Well,
to me.
Donna, it takes courage.
Yeah,
You have to be a self-starter, because that goes back to when my dad had taught me. All right, quitting. I walked away from my church. I walked away from ministry. I walked away from my church family. I grew up in that church. My dad had pastored the church. My family's still down there to this day. I withdrew from all of that,
mm,
and now I've launched out in the deep, and I'm not sure. Well, I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here, because I couldn't every Sunday seeing him with her standing there holding hands, and then she got pregnant, and that's a whole nother story. That right there, oh Jesus, that's what really took me out when I found out she was pregnant. I was suspecting that she was pregnant, and that's why they got married so quick. But like I said, I don't know. I'm just
right.
suspicious. But I said I can't sit there and watch her belly grow. I just can't do it.
Yeah, that's too much. It's too
That's too
much.
much. And I said, and I felt like I was quitting when I left the
Right,
church, my Macedonia, and it wasn't a quitting. It was more of a timeout. And I said I have to disconnect myself, because I can't heal in an environment that keeps opening my wounds. There's no way.
right. No
And
way.
so I had to make that hard decision. So I stepped away, and that my heart is with them. My heart was with my church kids. I felt like I let them down. I wasn't strong enough to handle it. And I'm weak, and there's something wrong with me and all that. And so I was beating myself up bad, because I said, why can't they leave? Why I got to leave? I love my ministry more than, so I went through it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had so many
But
beat
what do
downs
you what do you
emotionally.
what do you want other people to garner from this? Is it just that it could happen to anyone? Here I am, an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a
Mm-hmm.
minister, ordained,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have done all the right things supposedly, and the heartbreak happened to me anyway,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah,
because the part that's real is, um I was angry. I
angry.
was I was angry, and I mean, the day I found out he got married, my mama told me. She whispered in my ear, and at that point I could have fell out. I was I would have fell out. I would have fell out right there, but I had to keep up, not me, but it was strength of the Lord. I just got to say, I
Right,
got to give credit where credit is, because if it was left up to me, I would have went to jail.
right.
But um, I'm just
I
being
came
honest
and got
and real,
you.
because
I came and got you out.
my the heartbreak. I'm telling you, when you
Yeah,
hurt,
yeah,
you start
yeah,
reacting
yeah.
versus responding.
Right,
Okay.
right,
And in me, because I went through pain and rejection, and being picked on, and being overlooked and made to feel I'm not good enough, that amplified that all that came back at that point in time, because
right,
that's how I felt. I wasn't good enough, something wrong with me. And then, then I wasn't picked,
right.
pick me, it wasn't
Yeah.
that. So I dealt with all those issues
Feelings.
dredging up.
Yeah,
And I'm like, how do you manage this? And so when I found out about it, I got into my car, and I just started screaming.
yeah.
I started screaming and beating on my steering wheel. I said, God, why did you let this happen? Why? Wow. I said, what am I supposed to do now? What
You're
am I
supposed to
supposed
write
to do
about it
now?
and make some money. Take your
Yeah.
pain, put it on paper, and make some paper.
Yeah. And
You
who
know?
and who thought that? Who
Yeah,
would think
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So yeah, so it was a man. I was angry at God. I was angry
Everybody.
at him. I was angry at the how the pastor handled the situation. It was like all these little things that was happening. And I was just like, how do I bounce? How do I master the comeback? Which
Well,
is what the
here's what we're
t-shirt
going to
is all
have to
about.
do. We're going to have another conversation about how you mastered the comeback because I want to make sure that this goes on YouTube, and I think we have an hour. And then
Oh,
they say, I know. And so I just right now, listen, we'll come back. We'll do it again. We'll do it again because
oh.
that hour goes really, really fast. And so tell us how to get a copy of your book, please, how we can stay connected. And I need just a small pearl of wisdom.
Okay. So you can follow me on Instagram at PK Sensation. I'm on Facebook, Regina Nunnally. I'm on YouTube as well under the Mental Wealth Builder. And I have my own website, www.reginanunley.com, where pretty much everything about me is there. And so you can buy the book from Amazon.com as well, or you can reach out to me personally and I could come and do a book signing or, a lecture just about, life, the journey. And I would just say that there's a saying that said, calm seas never made skilled sailors.
Say that again.
So calm seas
Calm
has
seas.
never, calm seas,
Okay.
SES,
Okay.
has never made skilled sailors, which means in order to become more mature and an expert at something, you got to go through something.
Yeah, you do. You do.
You got to go
Well,
through something. Yeah.
yeah. Regina, thank you for being here on Zoom in on a fresh conversation. We'll have another conversation because there's more to tell, right? We're going to have a part two on Regina Nunnally. And thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. And I'll just say that when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. And Regina, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
I
Bye,
appreciate you.
everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. This
Good
was
night.
great. Very good.